why is America struggling so profoundly with so many issues that if you're a follower of Christ, if you're someone who reads the Bible, these things seem so black and white? But elements such as, our confusion about, is there truth? What is truth? When does truth matter? Political corruption, what constitutes that? What do we do about it? Financial irresponsibility, not only on the part of the government, but on the part of families and individuals. The ineffectiveness of so many churches, the decline in our population, first time we've had that since our nation came into existence. Stability in our families, what's going on there? We don't have that kind of stability these days. Lawlessness is everywhere. Addiction, it seems to be omnipresent. Our children in the public schools are constantly being indoctrinated into other ways of thinking and believing. The sexual confusion, the identity issues that people are wrestling with, the fact that nobody trusts our institutions anymore, which had been one of the foundations of our nation. All of these things, what are we supposed to make of it? Why do we have these problems, and what are we going to do about it? And I think that's why it's so great to be a Christian these days, because we have the answers that the world is looking for. But if we have those answers, why doesn't the world catch on to it? And I want to suggest to you that part of the problem we're wrestling with is that when you look at any particular culture, that culture is essentially defined, it's described, it's comprised of the cumulative choices of the population in that culture. It's their choices altogether that actually make that culture what it is. And if our nation is in a state of deterioration, it's because of the decisions that the people in that culture are making. And so when you look at all of that, you've got to understand that every person in the culture, every hour of every day, is making decisions. And when you put them together, you get the culture. So what that says to me is that there's one simple understanding of this, which is that if you don't like what's happening in the culture, you've got to change the decisions that we're all making. I mean, that's not brain surgery to figure that out. And in fact, the scriptures have already taught us this. You go back to Galatians 6. In verse 7, Paul wrote to us that you reap what you sow. And that's what our culture has become. We don't like what's going on. Why? But we've sown these seeds for years now. And we're simply reaping what we've already sown. But, if bad decisions are the things that lead to outcomes that we don't want in our midst, what do we do about it? Well, first we have to question, why do we make those decisions? How do we get in that place where so many people are making so many bad decisions? How are we going to change that? And I think one of the primary answers to that question of how did we get in that situation is because the people who influence us are championing and modeling unsound philosophies. They're making decisions based on philosophies that are untenable, and that cannot help but lead to those untenable outcomes. Their influence prevails. Why? Why are there so many of these people? Because there are not enough genuine followers of Jesus Christ demonstrating their influence to the rest of the culture for people to follow us. Americans do not want to fail. We hate failure. But when we're posed with no other alternatives, we'll accept it. Who has the alternative? The disciples of Jesus have that alternative. But there are not enough of them who are living their faith, who are in the culture spreading their faith, and they are demonstrating what it looks like. When Jesus gave us what we call the Great Commission, that passage at the end of the book of Matthew, where he talks about the fact that we're supposed to go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. But importantly, teaching these new disciples to obey all the commands that he has given. See, this is what we are on the planet to do. We've been seduced by our culture to think that we're here to be successful, we're here to be happy, we're here to be popular, we're here to have as many toys as we can accumulate. We've been seduced into thinking something that is patently false. If we go back to what our Father in heaven through his Son Jesus has told us to do, it's to be here to represent him and to influence the rest of the world. The problem that we have today, one way I said it, is that we do not have enough disciples in our culture who are influencing others. A different way of saying it is, right now, the culture is influencing the Church of Jesus more than the Church of Jesus is influencing the culture. And if we want America to survive, if you want your family to thrive, if you want your church to have the freedom to continue to love and honor and respect and worship Jesus, if you want to live the life that God put you here to live, then you have got to be a disciple of his who's willing to go out in the world and influence it for his glory.